President Trump's announcement of a new round of tariffs against China sent markets, including tech stocks, tumbling on Thursday. The president's latest tariff hike against China coincided with a drop in bilateral investments, specifically in the tech sector. Joining us now with whether that's likely to happen again is Carmen Ansari. He is Graycroft principal and venture partner. He used to head up Pinterest corporate development. He's also a Pinterest shareholder. We should talk about Pinterest, given the numbers. But what's your take on what this all means?
On the tariffs, I mean, it's. Yeah. You've already seen a reduction. I think the tension it's created in cross-border activity in the tech space. Certainly, M&A is sort of basically off the table entirely. What you saw with MoneyGram happen, where Alibaba was blocked from buying them, and I think China investment from the venture perspective is a very specialized thing, and it's always been, and it's become even more so, where U.S. firms are more reluctant now, I think, to do one or two investments in China if they don't have a proper kind of a presence there. I
don't know if you saw, but Peter Thiel out with another op-ed in the New York Times. I don't know if it was another op-ed, but really another commentary on this idea that Google is giving China information by creating an AI lab in Beijing, and that is sort of arming them, if you will, with a new weapon. What do you make of that argument?
I don't know what the rationale or motivation for that would be on the part of Google. So, I mean, it sounds a little far-fetched.
Well, let me ask you a separate question. If you owned a tech company, would you open an office in Beijing? And do you believe you could open an office in Beijing without that information being taken, stolen, used by the government?
It's an absolute risk, but I mean these companies that set up there, I think, try to put in safeguards and controls to make sure it doesn't happen. But look, in the case of Pinterest, for example, we never really haven't had an office there for that reason.
But the value, I guess the balance or the question is there more value in having an office and being able to attract and use the talent and benefit from the talent that might very well be in Beijing on an AI project versus whatever you think may happen to the intellectual property / capital that you've created?
Probably not.
In that city, right?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, there are great AI talent engineers all over the world. So, I mean, you can certainly set that up. I mean, Montreal, right next door here, has phenomenal AI talent, so you don't have to deal with all that.
Give me your take on where Pinterest is right now.
The company put out, great results, beat the estimates pretty heartily, and I think the main thing for them going forward is how they monetize both international, which is a real bright spot for them, as well as how they think about commerce. Because to this day, most of the revenue, almost all of it, is coming from advertising, but not really taking any kind of revenue share or taking advantage of the fact they're driving so many sales for merchants.
And so the question is, why not?
I think it's early. I mean, there was a program 4 years ago where they had something called buyable pins, where you actually buy stuff on Pinterest, and you see Instagram doing a lot of that today with their new checkout product. It was a little early. The product was launched in 2015. May not have been kind of ready for the current or for that environment. But I think you'll see them re-enter the market for commerce in some way in the coming years.
More growth outside of the U.S. than inside the U.S., right?
I think so. Yeah.
And geographically, do they end up doing business in China in a meaningful way? For example?
Not in the foreseeable future. I think Pinterest has been also very deliberate about where they've grown. They don't grow just sort of, by turning on the lights. They pick countries in which they think they can actually have meaningful advertising revenue. So Western Europe, Australia, Canada, Japan, et cetera.
And when you think, I want to go back to the China trade issue for a second. When you think about now making investments, or let me backtrack.
Yeah.
When was there a time where you said to yourself, I'm making an investment and I'm really psyched because one of the great opportunities here is going to be to sell to a Chinese company? And do you think that's ever coming back?
I think it'll.
And what does that therefore do to valuations? What does it do to your ability to buy certain things or think about that?
I think it'll come back at some point, but in the foreseeable future, absolutely. We have companies in my portfolio that we thought about maybe engaging with Chinese buyers, and that's sort of off the table at this point, I would say.